This is the noon news from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon. We're so glad you could join us today. I'm Aja Goare. Our top story today, the Trump administration is urging all countries to cut ties with North Korea after its newest missile tests. Analysts say it's now capable of striking anywhere in the U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, says the test could bring the world closer to war. CBS's Ben Tracy has more.
As North Korea's most advanced missile launched into the night sky, a beaming Kim Jong-un was clearly pleased with his regime's accomplishment. The Hwasong-15 rocket is the third ICBM launched by North Korea in the past 6 months.
The dictator of North Korea made a choice yesterday that brings the world closer to war, not farther from it.
At an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council, U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley issued a stark warning about what she calls North Korea's continued acts of aggression.
If war comes, make no mistake, the North Korean regime will be utterly destroyed.
The Trump administration is calling on China, North Korea's main trading partner, to entirely cut off the regime's oil supply.
Little rocket man.
President Trump made fun of Kim Jong-un during a speech outside St. Louis on tax reform.
He is a sick puppy.
But experts who have studied photos of the regime's new weapon are taking it very seriously.
I think it's clear from the pictures that it's a more capable rocket certainly than the last one we saw.
David Wright of the Union of Concerned Scientists says he's surprised by how fast North Korea is advancing its missile program.
I'm less skeptical than I might have been that they can deliver a warhead to certainly the West Coast and maybe larger parts of the United States. So I think the threat that they have been talking about is a real threat at this point.
After this latest missile launch, North Korea says it has completed its nuclear weapons program. And state media says that Kim Jong-un said it was such a milestone, it should be recorded in the nation's history. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Tokyo.
Meanwhile, with the newfound support of Montana Senator Steve Daines, the Senate begins debate on a tax reform plan. Senators voted along party lines last night to move the bill forward, but the bill is still being tweaked in order to try to win enough votes. Republicans can only afford to lose 2 votes in order to pass the bill. On Monday, Daines said he could not support the measure because it did not do enough for Main Street. But Daines had a change of heart Wednesday, saying he secured $60 billion in tax cuts for smaller businesses. A final vote is expected this week. The Montana State Fund will withdraw its lawsuit against the state over a $30 million charge on the fund's investment holdings. The fund's board of directors voted Wednesday to pull out of the lawsuit. A temporary management fee on some state fund investments was approved earlier this month during the special legislative session in an effort to help fill the budget gap. But the fund's president argued state fund money cannot be transferred for other purposes. On Wednesday, a number of business owners called on the board to continue its lawsuit, fearing the legislature would take more money from the fund in the future. Those who supported dropping the lawsuit said moving forward would have been too risky. Rural hospitals and patients were left scrambling after Blue Cross Blue Shield announced last month plans to withdraw from most Montana counties. But as MTN's Augusta McDonald explains, another insurance provider is stepping up in Mineral County.
Blue Cross Blue Shield just dropped all of their Medicare Advantage plan patients effective January 1st. Advantage plans are generally considered a better option for people who qualify for Medicare and don't go to the doctor that often. This gave hospitals in 30 Missoula counties just 3 months to contract with another insurance company that would offer Advantage plans to their patients. It hasn't happened yet in Mineral County at Mineral Community Hospital, and patients are having to make some tough decisions.
There was rumors, and then we got a letter, and they were saying that we are no longer going to cover you. And so then we said, okay, now what?
Sue McLeese lost her insurance and is now weighing her options. She's considering Humana, an insurance company that just stepped onto the scene to sell Medicare Advantage plans to people in Mineral County. But Humana does not yet have a contract with the local Mineral Community Hospital. The two are in negotiations with a group of other rural hospitals that were just dropped by Blue Cross Blue Shield. In a statement, Humana says if a Mineral County member is experiencing a true emergency, treatment at any emergency room will be covered at the in-network benefit level under certain conditions. Without a contract, patients are looking at having to drive to Missoula or Polson for the closest in-network care. If people choose to not purchase another Medicare Advantage plan, they do have options. However, the alternatives are not necessarily the most affordable or the best fit for everyone. They could go on to regular Medicare and purchase a supplement along with parts B and D that are recommended.
Your supplements, for most of us, are fairly expensive. I would say $120 to $200 a month. But you don't have your co-pays and things like that. But your Advantage plans have actually covered pretty well for me.
She says the Medicare Advantage plan is less expensive for her. Patients like Sue McLeese have a very short period of time to weigh the costs, the distance, and the coverage options without knowing whether or not they'll be able to go to their local hospital for their care. For MTN News, I'm Augusta McDonald.
Thanks, Augusta. The Medicare annual enrollment period closes December 7th, but those who received a letter terminating their coverage have until February 28th. New technology at the Sunset Hills Cemetery in Bozeman will help people locate plots for loved ones who died while serving our country. A dedication ceremony was held Wednesday to thank veterans and the American Legion. A $12,000 veterans kiosk will now help people locate their loved ones. Simply type in the last name of the person and the kiosk will pull from the database, providing instant information about a veteran's resting place within the cemetery. A public health advisory is in place in Lewistown, where a recent test found a presence of coliform bacteria in the water supply. The Montana Department of Environmental Quality issued the advisory in late October, but says it's not an emergency. Residents do not have to boil their water or take other precautions unless they have a compromised immune system. The city says it's actively working to correct the problem. We turn now to the weather scene with Ed McIntosh. And how are we looking around the state today?
You know, with the new month started, we thought we'd take a look at what's going to happen as we start getting into early December. The first couple of days across the region, but that colder air will continue to creep in. Sunday, sort of a transition day, bringing a chance of showers and then chillier temperatures generally across most of the region as we start getting into Monday. And that colder air will continue to shift into eastern portions of the country and still allow that upper level jet to drag in some cooler air. We could see a little bit of relief, especially in central and western Montana with a ridge building in by the time we start getting in towards next weekend. So get ready for some changes. It's going to feel a little more like winter. More on the forecast coming up.
All right, thanks, Ed. The future of lecturers at the University of Montana once again uncertain after a draft of a letter indicates no contracts will be renewed following the spring semester. The draft letter from administrators says the school is preparing to eliminate the position of lecturer, instead hiring adjuncts. The decision, if finalized, would impact up to 35 lecturers. This would allow the school more flexibility in hiring, no more year-long contracts, and instead using a class-by-class hiring basis. A faculty union spokesperson worries this could drive away quality lecturers. The school has not commented on the letter. New reports indicate Bobby Houck is back as head coach of Grizzly football. Skyline Sports broke the news, confirming the information through 8 independent sources, but the university denies a final decision has been made. This would be Houck's second time as the Grizz head coach. He left Montana in 2010 to be head coach at UNLV. Is looking to replace Bob Stitt, who will not have his contract renewed after 3 years. Still ahead on the new news, the hurricanes that destroyed shoreline communities this summer broke several records. More on the season's end when we return. But first, Ed has our weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching MTN News with Aja Goare, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and farm and ranch news from the Northern Egg Network. This is the news.